Hey everyone, Sam here, otherwise known as FPL Pricey, and in today's video, I will be running through my key transfer tips ahead of Game Week 18. There are a lot of players to be getting through today, so let's jump right into it. Welcome back everyone to another video. Now, if you could, leave a like, hit subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy today's video. That would be massively appreciated. But first off, let's talk about the man that I think everyone is going to be at least considering for their FPL sides this week. That is Hugo Ekitike, who's on a bit of a tear right now, 5 goals in the last 3 games, and obviously very good fixtures to come. Now, the 4 on the ticker include Wolves at home, Leeds at home in the next 2. Fulham away after that's not so bad. Arsenal in 21, obviously not ideal. But then after that, it's Burnley at home as well. So it's a great extended run of fixtures for Liverpool. And for quite a while now, we've had our eye on Liverpool players for this run. But until recently, it seemed maybe a little bit difficult to figure out which Liverpool players are going to be worth buying for the run. Now, obviously, Ekitike's been on a good run of form. People were talking about him before Game Week 17. And of course, he's gone and scored in Game Week 17 as well anyway. But what happened that was really interesting in that game against Spurs was that Isak came on at half-time, I think it was for Conor Bradley, and then had to leave the field after scoring, in fact, from scoring his goal against Spurs. And it's hard to tell so far because we haven't got any proper diagnosis, but it looks like a pretty bad knee injury. Now, obviously, I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose him exactly. But when you've got a player who doesn't even celebrate the goal he's just scored and has to get dragged off the pitch by 2 physios either side of him, it's not a good sign. So Isak himself might be out for a little while. Ekitike's only real challenger through the centre up top is Isak. So if he's out, Ekitike's minutes looks pretty good for the foreseeable. And given that we've got a few games in a quick turnaround now, Wolves and Leeds obviously being 2 straight up, I'd be pretty surprised if Isak is back for any of these matches. Now, obviously, wait for a proper diagnosis. We might get something from Slot, and we do often hear about the long injury layoffs as they occur just in the public media. So we might hear something, but Ekitike for the next 2 game weeks at least looks like his minutes are going to be pretty secure. And even though there is a tight turnaround between a lot of these matches, Liverpool are one of the teams that it's actually not quite as bad for. There are a few teams that have a couple of 2-day turnarounds in this little patch of fixtures around the Christmas run. Liverpool don't really have too much of a problem there. I think there's a quick turnaround between Leeds and Fulham, but outside of that, the gaps are pretty reasonable. So Ekitike will probably get enough rest so that he can start the next match afterwards as well. The data so far this season is good. It's not amazing, but 0.42 XG per 90 is not bad whatsoever. And given the run of form he's in at the moment, given the fact that his minutes look secure and the next 2 fixtures do look pretty good on paper, especially that Wolves game, by the way. Leeds are obviously playing pretty well. They put up 3 goals against Liverpool, obviously conceded 3 as well. So I still back him to do well in the Leeds game, but it's that Wolves game first up that looks like a really nice carrot to be going after, especially when you've got strikers that are faltering at the moment. We'll talk about Thiago in a minute. This will be a very popular transfer this week, and I do just wonder if, a bit like Phil Foden a few game weeks ago, this is a bandwagon that I just want to get on as quickly as possible and not miss out on. Obviously, he could blank in these games, and 8.8 is not cheap for a striker. I've already talked this season plenty of times about the fact that the midfielders do tend to be better value for money, even the defenders as well. But Ekitike, given the form he's in, given the minutes look more secure than usual and the fixtures to come, I get the feeling this is a bandwagon I do want to be a part of. And I do worry that his ownership is going to get so high that if I don't go there, it's going to be very, very painful when he inevitably gets points in the next 2 game weeks in particular. It's also not unlikely for him to get returns against Fulham, and then Burnley's not too far after that either. So I do have this sinking feeling that I'm going to have to find a route to him. And I don't have an easy route to him either. I do have 4 free transfers, so I can get to him. But ideally, I didn't really want to use 2 or 3 free transfers just to get to an 8.8 million striker. But even I have to admit, I think it's just going to be too good to turn down. Okay, so I also think we need to quickly talk about the player being sold in the forward line, mainly for Ekitike, but there are a number of other forwards that look enticing all of a sudden. And Thiago seems to be the player, owned by the majority of the game now, that is being sold, considering the recent form has dipped. Now, the last 2 game weeks, he hasn't even put up a shot on goal. And that is especially disappointing, especially when you look at the last game week against Wolves, them being the worst team in the league and one of the worst defences in the league. I think they're pretty much level with Burnley for that honour. For him to not even get a shot on goal is pretty appalling. And when you look at the price, 7.1 million is no longer cheap. He obviously came into the game a lot cheaper than that, but he has had a number of price rises. And now that we've got a few strikers around the same price, and obviously Ekitike is a little bit more expensive, but they're all looking a lot more productive than Thiago has recently, it makes a lot of sense why people are selling him. Now, I'm also looking at selling him, not because I think he's a terrible asset, but because there are other players that are doing much better with better fixtures. For a balanced view on Thiago, though, I don't think he's a must sell. The data's still not bad. He has picked up a lot of penalties, so it's bolstered by that. And obviously 11 goals so far this season. A lot of them have also been penalties. So if you remove them, he wouldn't look quite so good. But that Brentford are a team that win a lot of penalties. And would it surprise me if they picked up a penalty or two in the next 4 game weeks? Not really. And if they do, he's got a good record. And all of a sudden, he's an absolutely fine player to hold on to and probably not worth the transfer out. Even if he has no shots on goal outside of penalties in the next 4 game weeks, if he gets a couple of penalties, he's probably okay to hold on to. And there might be 1 or 2 strikers that beat him, but if he gets those penalties, probably not by that much. I think the real quiz is, will he continue to get those penalties at the same rate? And although Brentford are very good at picking up penalties, it's fair to say that they've had more than their fair share of penalties so far. So I think the attacking returns will dip. I don't think 11 goals in 17 game weeks is sustainable for him. I still think that he's got a reasonable chance of picking up another 8 or 9 goals this season, but there are other strikers with a nice patch of fixtures, Ekitike being one of them, that you could jump onto for a few game weeks and probably get a little bit more output out of than Thiago. Looking at the fixtures coming though, I don't think they're all that bad. Bournemouth have been a really poor defence recently. Spurs are also really struggling. Everton, fine. Tough defence, but are missing players in attack. So will that affect them as a team? Possibly. And then Sunderland at home after that. It's not a bad run. I mean, it's not like they're playing Wolves and Burnley every week, but those are teams that I don't mind Thiago playing. And initially I bought him for this extended run. Wolves was a part of that, and he was obviously very disappointing in that game. But if he'd picked up a penalty against Wolves, I don't think we'd even be considering selling him. So look, I'm also personally looking at a route from him to Ekitike, but if you haven't lost faith in him overall yet, I don't think he's a fire sale. I think you can hold on to him. You could even look at a 3-4-3 with both him and Ekitike or Bowen or DCL. We've got a number of strikers to get through in this video. But I think you can sell him. I think it's fine. But don't be surprised if he picks up a penalty or 2 or just gets an open play goal in the next few game weeks, because the fixtures are all right. And his data's not all that bad, and Brentford do win a fair few penalties. I think the thing that would push me over the edge to sell him would be the fact that over the next 4 game weeks, we've talked about it a lot, there is a tight turnaround, especially that Everton game. I think they've got 2 days either side between Spurs, Everton, and then Sunderland. And given that he was rested recently in the Cup and then also rested, I think it was it between game week 13 and 14? I think 14 was the week he was rested, given the tight turnaround there against Arsenal. I would not be surprised if he also got a rest in one of these games coming. And that might be enough to just push me over the edge if I thought his minutes were in doubt. And although he does tend to get 90 minutes a match, he also doesn't play all the matches. There are matches that he is rested for to make sure that he's fit for the next one. And I do just wonder if one of those 3, Spurs, Everton, Sunderland, probably the Everton game, is the week that he gets rested so he's fit for the next one. So look out for that. That might be the final push you need to want to sell him. But I think objectively, if you wanted to hold on to him for another game week or two, it is probably okay. Okay, so we still have 2 more strikers to talk about, and then I promise we'll move on to other positions. Calvert-Lewin, probably not a long section, but more just if you want a budget enabler, he is on the menu. He's picked up 5 goals in his previous 4 games now. It is a seriously good run of form. I still don't know whether I fully trust him to continue this, but the underlying XG data is very strong. 0.56 XG per 90 is brilliant, especially for a player at this price. He's picked up 8 attacking returns in 17 game weeks so far this season. It's really not that bad. And look, we've all had a pretty patchy history with Dominic Calvert-Lewin over the years in FPL. He's been very infuriating to own at times. And I nearly went there earlier on this season. I decided against it, and immediately it looked like a pretty good call because he wasn't returning at that point. But he's still getting good minutes. He's still getting good data, and he's finally now getting the attacking returns to match up with that. And I do just wonder if at this price, it makes a lot of sense. He'll probably be on penalties when he's on the pitch. Obviously, Stack took the penalty last night. Calvert-Lewin had already come off. Maybe that's something to consider as well. Maybe in this quick turnaround of fixtures, he will get minutes reduced or managed. But I think the thing that puts me off right now is, okay, Sunderland game, maybe not all that bad, although Sunderland are a decent defence. After that, Liverpool away, Man United at home, Newcastle away. It's not good enough as a run of fixtures for me to take the plunge on Calvert-Lewin right now. So look, he's doing really well. If you need a budget enabler, it makes a lot of sense. If you're on a wild card, maybe you've waited this long for a wild card. As a third forward, I do quite like it. The fixtures aren't great, so I maybe wouldn't rush this one right now. But he's a player to keep an eye on. And if he keeps getting good minutes, there will come a time when Leeds have got a good run of fixtures that I will consider him again. And I apologise to my future self for doing so, because it will inevitably dry up and he'll inevitably be an FPL troll once again when we get there. Okay, one final striker and then I'm moving on, I promise. And a quick one on Jarrod Bowen. We finally hit the run of fixtures for West Ham that we all kind of penciled in as a week where we're looking at Jarrod Bowen as an option. So we need to talk about him. He obviously blanked against Man City, but it's not like he didn't have chances in that game either. And I was a little bit surprised about that, given that Man City have actually been a really robust defence, especially recently. But he still picked up the odd chance. And I do wonder if we're all looking at Ekitike at 8.8. It'll probably be 8.99 million by the deadline as the saviour up front. And I do wonder if at a little bit cheaper, more of a talisman, Jarrod Bowen might be a good option as well. He's easier to get to than Ekitike is. You probably don't need to rip apart your team to get there from Thiago, for example. I could get there with one free transfer. He's got good fixtures. Fulham, Brighton at home, both at home. 3 home games in the next 4 as well, by the way, with Nottingham Forest in game week 21. Wolves away in there as well. The one away game in the next 4 is probably the best away game you could possibly have, maybe bar Burnley, but it's certainly in that territory. It's a great run of fixtures. And with Jarrod Bowen, over this period, we've talked about it a lot already in this video, you want players who are definitely going to start and definitely going to get 90 minutes. And there aren't many of them about, but Jarrod Bowen is absolutely one of those players who you could almost take it to the bank right now that he's going to start all of these matches and get 80 plus minutes in the majority, if not all of them. Obviously, the attacking returns are never that explosive with him, but he's a great drip feeder of points. We've seen it season on season. If you just hold on to him for an extended run, you don't know exactly when the returns are going to come, but they are going to come. 7 attacking returns so far this season. I'd be relatively confident that that takes an uptick in the next 4 fixtures as well, given that they are better than average fixtures. And with the fact that he is a 90-minute man, I do just wonder if he's the sensible option to be bringing him for this period of time. The other thing to note with Jarrod Bowen, which is another tick in the pros column, is that when he gets any sort of attacking return, because West Ham usually concede, and because he is the talisman and he's so involved, he does tend to pick up maximum bonus points. Most of the goals he's picked up so far this season have been 7-point goals. Obviously, he's a striker this season, so he only gets 4 points for the goal, which goes against him a little bit compared to last year when he picked up 5 as a midfielder. But he also does tend to pick up 2 or 3 bonus points for every attacking return he gets. So, yeah, I think even though his attacking returns probably won't be as bountiful, that's a weird word to be using in an FPL video, but I'm going to go with it, as someone like Ekitike, who I would probably say gets a few attacking returns more than Bowen over a season or even in the next few games, Jarrod Bowen might be able to match up to him at less money because he also gets the bonus points more often than not, even off of a single attacking return. So it's something to consider. I'm not convinced that Bowen versus Ekitike is as obvious a decision as some are saying, and Ekitike might be the player that I go for as well. But Bowen at a little bit cheaper with a good extended run of fixtures and that bonus points thing that you can rely on, as well as the 90 minutes per match. I do just wonder if he might be another interesting option to be considering as a Thiago replacement if you did want to move Thiago on. Okay, so we've spoken a lot already about an upgrade in the forward line, that being probably Thiago to Ekitike, but there are other options available. Most managers, including myself, don't have the money to do that with one move, although a few did, and fair play if you've done that already. I would completely understand doing so for one free transfer. But a few of us are looking around, scratching our heads, wondering where we're going to make up the money to be able to make that upgrade up front. Now, one place that I think a lot of us are going to at least consider, and I'm not saying definitely do this, but it makes logical sense to maybe look at taking Saka down to someone like Declan Rice. Now, you could look at players that don't play for Arsenal, but given Arsenal are still one of the better teams in the league, one of the best two, either them or Man City, I'll leave that debate for you in the comments, but they're certainly up there. Rice has been fantastic this season, and although he's probably overperforming, he does have a number of different routes to points, and he does have DEFCON as well, which Saka, he's hit it a couple of times, but Declan Rice, you can rely on it a little bit more. You can see the data below. The DC per 90 for Rice is a lot higher and much nearer that 12-point threshold for him to hit that on a regular basis. So, is it worth it or not? Well, Saka, for one, didn't take the penalty last night. Gyökeres did. So we know that at least penalties are shared. And Gyökeres, after the match, did also confirm that he's not just the penalty taker. Saka will also take a few. And he did also mention there are others as well. So he will still have penalty share, but he's not the outright penalty taker. That's Saka, by the way. So that is maybe a mark against him. He's not just the penalty taker. He'll share them. But I do think that Gyökeres probably took that one because he needed a goal. And Arsenal have that team mentality. If they've got a striker who needs a goal, it doesn't shock me that he took that one. So I do wonder if the next one probably goes back to Bukayo Saka anyway. And they've got good fixtures. So Brighton, Aston Villa, Bournemouth, it's absolutely fine. I don't think that's a run of fixtures I'd be desperately wanting to jump off of Saka for. But he is over 10 million, and we've already seen it this season. They're not flogging him quite as much as they have done in the past. Obviously, previous seasons, over this Christmas period, he was the perfect player to own because you could guarantee he'd play 90 minutes every single match. And obviously, he's got great underlying data. You can see it on screen now. 0.62 XGI per 90 is fantastic. This season, though, given that we've in the past seen him pick up knocks and get injured during this Christmas period, I don't think they're going to flog him quite as much. And we've already seen him get rotated and come off the bench when there's a quick turnaround. That was against Brentford earlier on in the season. And I do have a sneaky suspicion that given the tight turnaround for a few of these fixtures, he might see minutes reduced. Either that being he starts and gets brought off a little bit early for Madueke, so maybe 60, 70 minutes, or there might be the odd benching in there. And that might only be one match, but that's still enough to maybe say to me that for 10 million or north of 10 million, I could save the money, go with someone else in that Arsenal lineup who, look, he could get rotated, he could miss a match, but I think if I had to pick one of the two of them to miss any minutes, it would be Saka, not Rice. Rice, again, could get rotated, but I'm more confident, I'm more bullish on his minutes than I am on Saka's. And he's on corners, just like Saka is from one side. He's also not got terrible underlying attacking data. 0.33 isn't bad. When you also then have DEFCONs added into the mix there as well, I do just wonder for that 3.2 million saving, is it going to be worth it? For more reliable minutes, better DEFCON, other routes to points. Obviously, Saka has more routes to points because he's got the penalty share, but he is a lot more expensive. And if it funds that upgrade up front, but also then funds maybe an upgrade somewhere else in your backline possibly, and makes you more of a secure 11 for minutes and maybe even more of a secure 15 with some more depth, given the money you've saved here, you can spend it on your bench. Maybe it is worth it. And it's a move that I am really strongly considering this week. Taking Saka down, he could absolutely punish me and anyone selling him because his data's great. He will probably start 3 out of the next 4 at least and probably get decent minutes in a number of those matches. So he could punish you. And I think he probably will take the next penalty if I had to guess. But Rice is still good. He's a lot cheaper and he's got other routes to points as well. And given the fact that it makes upgrades elsewhere, it's going to be very, very tempting. So I'm not going to tell you which way to play it because I'm also debating this one myself. But I don't think it's a crazy move to be thinking about. Okay, so another team with great fixtures coming is Newcastle, who, although Man United on paper probably isn't the easiest of the lot, it's still a fixture where you'd imagine they get a couple of attack and returns from. So people are now looking at the likes of Voltemade and Gordon, both of which picked up a brace of attacking returns. Obviously, Voltemade got the goals, Gordon got the assists in game week 17. So they're on the menu, absolutely. I think the thing that would probably put me off is the minutes going into this Christmas period. I'm so sorry. I just sound like a broken record at this point. But they only both got 70 odd minutes in game week 17. They've both had reduced minutes so far this season anyway, especially Gordon. But Voltemade is probably not safe from rotation either, given that Visser is now also back in the fold. So over this busy period, I do have a gut feeling that they're probably both going to get benched at some point, and even in the matches they do start, they'll probably get brought off early. Now, does that put me off of them altogether and makes me say that they're just not worth going for at all? No, they could absolutely still get good points, given the fixtures are really strong over the next 4 game weeks. Burnley in there, Leeds in there, Crystal Palace are struggling a little bit at the moment. Man United do concede plenty of chances. So both Voltemade and Gordon will get attack and returns in this run, I'm sure of it, but it is also going to be very painful when they get rotated, when they miss a match or when they get brought off early, given that there are other options at around the same sort of price in both up front and in the midfield who get more secure minutes. And I do back them to probably do a little bit better given the rotation that I think will come for Newcastle in this period. I think they'll start maybe 2 or 3 of the next 4 games. But could I guarantee that they'll start 4? No, absolutely not. So I like them. They're great players. And when they're on the pitch, they're fantastic options. I just don't know if they're going to be on the pitch enough or for long enough over the next 4 game weeks to be going there right now. And that makes me a little bit jealous of those of you who will go there because I think they'll do very well in the minutes that they do get. Okay, so if I was looking at making a defensive transfer this week, I could look at Van Dijk. I didn't mention him in this video, but certainly would be on my radar with Liverpool's fixtures. But the 2 players that I'd probably be most strongly considering are the Everton centre-backs, Tarkowski and Keane. It's a little bit more complex than Keane's cheaper and therefore you should go for him, mainly because Branthwaite is back on grass, he's in training, and I just don't know how long we're going to have before Keane becomes an issue and Branthwaite comes back in. Now, Branthwaite's been out for a long, long time, so I don't think it's going to be as obvious and as simple as, okay, Branthwaite is training and therefore he'll start. I think he'll be nursed back to full health and then start to get minutes eventually. So I think for Burnley, Keane is absolutely fine, maybe even for Nottingham Forest, and who knows, maybe even for Brentford as well after that. But at some point in the next few game weeks, at time of recording, Branthwaite hasn't had a setback. We think he's going to be building up minutes soon. I would be nervous going for Keane now, and I wish it were more simple, and I wish that Keane was an absolute lock, because at 4.7 million, he's very good on the DEFCONs per 90. 10.12 is very strong, and it matches up well to Tarkowski. And also his goal threat's not all that bad either, 0.08. I would love to go for him. And the fixtures are also fantastic, not just for the next 4 game weeks, for an extended run after that as well. But given that we've got Branthwaite probably coming back into the fold at some point relatively soon, it would make me nervous. And it does feel like another transfer I'm going to have to use soon enough. And I don't think we're going to know for sure when Branthwaite is going to just start the next game. I think he'll be on the bench at first, and we just don't know what week it will be. So you'll get to the week where Branthwaite is an option, for Moyes to start, and you'll have Keane there, and maybe it's Wolves at home, for example. You're not going to want to sell Keane for that, but maybe there's a chance that he doesn't even play. And that would just put me off a little bit. Now, on the other side of the coin, you've got Tarkowski, who's more expensive, only 0.8 more, but it is still a lot of money at this time of the year. Obviously, we're looking at making upgrades elsewhere, so every penny counts. So at 5.5 million, it's not cheap. The fixtures are great. He's a 90-minute man, and he's not getting rotated anytime soon. So during this period, he's the perfect player to own. The only thing other than the price that I'd have against him, and again, if the price wasn't a factor, I'd be going for him regardless, but he has now picked up his 4th yellow card. And although the Burnley fixture is one of the best fixtures, it would be very frustrating for a 5.5 million defender to pick up that 5th yellow card in one of the next 2 game weeks before the threshold increases, and then him have to miss a game. It doesn't put me off altogether, because personally in my team, I've got a little bit of bench depth. I've got Anderson and I've got Rodon, so I can survive a suspension, but who knows? It could come in a week where there's heavy rotation elsewhere, or maybe another player or 2 gets injured and you don't have much of a bench to speak of anyway. So it's risky, but given the fixtures, I'd still be tempted to go there. And out of the 2 right now, if I was buying fresh, I'd probably be going for Tarkowski over Keane. If you've already got Keane, absolutely hold on to him. And then when it becomes a problem, deal with it then. Don't worry about it right now. He's so cheap. He's good on the defcons. He's obviously got attacking threat from set pieces. If you're already on him, absolutely fine. If you're buying fresh right now, I'd be a bit worried about Branthwaite, and I'd probably go for Tarkowski for that reason. Okay, so we'll wrap up by talking about one final player. That is Cunha, who I must admit, I'm recording this early on the Sunday, so I haven't seen him play against Aston Villa. Anything could happen in that. Obviously, he could even get injured, so I do apologise if that's happened. Then you can just skip this video, finish the video now, like and subscribe, all of that good stuff. Thank you very much. If he's fit, I still think that he's a good option to be buying even in game week 18 if you can do so, but it's not a desperate player to be buying right now. Obviously, it goes without saying, you want him for game week 19 through to game week 21. It's a good 3 game week stretch, about as good as it gets. Wolves, Leeds, Burnley, fantastic, job done. Have a double up of Man United midfielders with Bruno. He's got good underlying data. I think he's a fantastic option to own. If you wanted to move it this game week, I still don't hate it. Newcastle at home is not an easy fixture, but I think Man United will probably score in that game. Cunha's data, like I said, is good and it's trending upwards. And I think now that we've got a couple of attacking returns out of him in the last couple of game weeks, I think we can see more coming soon. Now, I will be watching the Aston Villa game very closely, just to see how well Man United function without Mbeumo, without Amad Diallo down that right-hand side, because I think that will impact them pretty badly. But Cunha, I don't think will fall off a cliff in terms of attacking data. I think his data, if anything, will probably tick up. I think there'll be more responsibility on him to be the spark in the forward line. And he might even get the odd game up top leading the line with Sesko not fully fit yet as well. So at 7.9 million, it's not cheap. He is pretty differential though at 4.5% ownership. And if you want to get on him early, I don't hate the Newcastle game as a jumping on point. I'm personally still looking at game week 19, given that Semenyo, for me, is in my team, didn't pick up that 5th yellow. So he's got Brentford next. I don't hate that. After that, game week 19, I want to have the funds available to move Semenyo, who's got a pretty rough run of fixtures from game week 19 onwards, straight to Cunha then. But you can absolutely move it a game week early if you want to. I'm personally waiting, and I think that both the Aston Villa game tonight and the Newcastle game as well will be a very interesting watch just to see how well Man United perform and how Cunha is settling into the side, given the greater weight of responsibility on his shoulders and the fact that Mbeumo and Amad aren't there creating chances and maybe also getting in Cunha's way of attacking returns as well. They will take goal share. So who knows? It could go either way. He's very interesting to me, but probably going to give him another game week before we get to the Wolves game before I actually look at buying him then. If you did enjoy today's video, I'd massively appreciate it if you could leave a like, hit subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time as we run through my transfer plans ahead of Game Week 18.